Welcome back, everyone. I'm Kyle R. Conway. I'm a self-taught artist with a PhD in fine arts and a master's degree in theater and a bachelor's in theater as well. I'm a self-taught artist. I am so excited to share with you something very important today. Sign up for my newsletter. People always say to me, Kyle, I can't be an artist. Being an artist is hard. How am I supposed to do this? Pretty much everyone thinks artists are artistic geniuses, born with a unique, innate ability to do amazing things. Brilliant minds, troubled souls. No wonder everybody wants to be. Everyone. People always say to me, Kyle, how can I become an artist? You can be an artist. And I'm here to tell you. Today we're going to go through all the different ways that you can become an artist like me. But you know what? Staring at a blank page doesn't have to be terrifying. You were born with an innate ability to do amazing things too. Anybody can learn to be an artist. You want a tortured soul? Start here. Start today. Start with me, right now. Many of you may have seen this meme about an owl. It describes 2 steps to becoming an artist. And a lot of people laugh at this, but you know what most people have trouble with? That's right, the first step. This tutorial is for everyone in step 1. I'm here to teach you. We're going to go through it in this introductory course, how to draw a circle. I'm ready to do it. Are you? Let's go. Today we're going to figure out how to draw a circle. First you need a piece of paper. Brace your hand against the paper and grab a pen. This is a felt tip pen. Just grip it, draw an O. That's it. You can use anything. Here's a permanent marker that's a little bit fatter tipped. This time I'll use a marker with an even fatter tip. And I'm going to draw on the outside. Using guides on the paper is important. This is a normal ballpoint pen. That makes marks too. Just draw an O. Here's a budget marker that might have been used for whiteboards. I'm just going to set it down and let it bleed into the paper. That's going to create the closest thing to a circle I've made so far. And you truly can use anything. This is a fountain pen with a wide nib and really flowy ink. Bleeds a lot better and puts down a thicker line than some of these other items. I just drew some more circles. Practice makes perfect. Here's some other ones. A dot, followed by some circles outside of it. One of the closest ways to get a perfect circle is the dot. And if you just trace around the edge of the dot that you created, and go very slow about it, you're going to do a closer circle than you normally would. Here's a crayon. This is going to make a thicker, sort of rougher mark. In fact, it's picking up the wood underneath. But you don't have to freehand it. There are tools for this. This is a compass. You might remember these from grade school. Just go pick one up at a store. Put the item in that you want to draw with. Set the pin down in the center. And just trace all the way around. Now, depending on what you put in there, it might not make a very fine mark. So I'm following up with my fountain pen, because that makes a thicker line that I really appreciate. But that's closer to a perfect circle. Maybe you don't have one of those around, so just grab something that's circular and trace on the outside. That's going to make basically a perfect circle. This is, I kid you not, a section where I'm going to take the lid from a mason jar and just set it down and color inside with a crayon. It's basically like cheating. There it is. I'm going to trace a line with a ballpoint pen. This isn't going to make much of a mark at all, just to show you that you can do that. There it is. Looks really perfect. In fact, it's a lot easier to draw on the inside of something than it is on the outside. But if I line it back up and put the crayon, now I can just scribble to my heart's content. Oh, look at that. It's basically creating a mask on the outside that my crayon can't get to. I'm going to use a couple other colors here just to make this a little bit more lively. But you can see that there's something really special about this. And once I get this darker color in here, we've got something fairly interesting on the inside. I figure I trace around the outside for good measure. You can see that this is more difficult. But there you go. In LibreOffice, you can just type an O, or a capital O, or a 0. You can also use the Unicode 2022, or just use a bullet by clicking Shift F12. Or there's O's and G's, kind of. I don't know. Look around. Welcome to Inkscape. This is an SVG graphics editor. First, I'm going to hit Ctrl-Shift-D and open up this menu. I'm going to change the page size to be 1920 by 1080. We're going to use this throughout this exercise about drawing a circle. Now I'm going to go up to the top left, hit the square button, then to the bottom right, and hit the snap to page borders. Look at that. Drag, perfect rectangle, 1920 to 1080. After selecting white in the bottom panel, I'm in the top left again to click the circle under the rectangle. Click, Hold Control, drag, perfect circle. Now Control Shift A, align to page, center and center. Beautiful. But what if you want to use Krita? Well, download Krita, install it. Go ahead and pick a brush. I'm going to change the background layer to be black. Use the paint bucket tool. Now I'm going to switch back to my paint layer, select the circle selection, hold down the Shift key. That's going to make sure that we leave this a perfect circle, and then I'm just going to paint. You'll notice that this is kind of close to what I was doing with the bell jar. A little bit more texture with some different colors. We'll do a dark layer, and then go over one more time with white. Lovely. And you can see that that looks beautiful. Hey, bonus, did you know if you select the ellipse tool from the side and then use your paintbrush, you click, hold shift to make a perfect circle, and then drag and release, it will draw with the paintbrush you chose, making a beautiful circle. Also, did you know that Krita has an animation workspace that allows you to use onion skinning and draw animations directly in the application and export them? Amazing. Now let's use Blender. Take the default cube and hit Ctrl 4. Now right click and click Shade Smooth. Now let's go to the World Properties settings and change the background color to black. Let's switch into rendered mode. We're using Eevee here. Click the center mouse button to move around. Now we're going to go to the shading tab. Let's go into display render preview mode in the top right corner. Now select the principled BSDF and hit X to delete. Now let's do Shift A and add an emission shader. Let's connect up the emission to the surface. And look, it's a perfect circle. Hit 0 to go into the camera view. Now let's go into the render properties and turn on bloom. All that's left is to turn up the strength on our emission shader and watch it glow. In the modifier tab, let's make sure our render subdivisions are 4, just like our viewport. Now we just hit F12 to render. Welcome to GIMP. Let's go to File New and open up a new window. Let's make it 1920 by 1080. My background's already black, but if it's not, just click your paint bucket and paint it in there. Now we're going to select the size, and look, our brush is already pretty much a hard circle. I'm just going to find the center there, click one click, look at that, I have a circle. Okay, I snuck in and made it larger. I'm going to use an add-in called Gmik. Gmik is something you have to install separately. Google it, I guess. At any rate, I'm going to use, let's use Brushify. Go ahead and play with the settings. It's going to give you a preview of what's going to happen on the left side. Once you think you've got it down in a way that you like it, with some things that you like, just go ahead and click OK and apply. I'm going to jump ahead here because this took a while. Boom, there it is. Look at that. You can see the brush strokes. They're fake brush strokes, but sometimes imperfection is a good thing when you're making a circle. Otherwise it doesn't look human. We made a circle in Inkscape, Krita, Blender, and GIMP. Awesome. Now let's take a look at processing. Processing is a little bit weird. You got a code. There's ways you could do it on the web with P5.js, but we're going to use Python. I'm going to create this setup function and make my size 1920 by 1080, and then do a draw function, which is basically a loop that goes around all the time. I'm going to set the background with a 0, which means black. Goes from 0 to 255. There we go. Look at that. Perfect. Now let's add a circle. Can you guess what the circle command does? I'm going to place it at the center using width divided by 2 and height divided by 2 for placement, and then give it a diameter. Looks good to me. Maybe a little bit bigger. There you go. But now we can do some interesting things. I'm going to bring in the random integer, and then I'm going to set a random integer every time we loop through, and then draw the circle with that width. Look at that. It's pulsing. Let's change the frame rate and slow it down a bit. It's kind of interesting. Let's get rid of the black background. And add some alpha. Uh-oh. I forgot about the stroke. I don't want those dark lines there. Let's add no stroke. And let's move the background up here and turn it back on so it only draws it once. Then the alpha channel slowly fills. Very interesting. Last thing to do is to fluctuate the position. Let's make it a random integer between 20 and 100 for both x and y. That should bounce it around a little bit. Let's up that frame rate so it goes faster. Let's make it more alpha. Looks good.
So
So learning to become an artist is kind of like learning to become a programmer. I mean, like, you can do it, but it's not probably as easy as we make it out, maybe, sometimes. There's a lot of other things going on.